This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by my CRE Accelerator Mastermind, where you'll get access to my step-by-step investment blueprint, essentially a library of resources on how to invest in commercial real estate. You'll get connected to a supportive community of other commercial real estate investors that are doing projects just like you. You'll get personalized coaching and feedback from me every step of the way. Go to www.crecentral.com to learn more. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. We are live from the Cobble Group Studios here in Nashville, Tennessee, 90 days into buying an abandoned self-storage facility. Now, abandoned may be a bit of a strong term, but for all intents and purposes, it had an absentee owner that when he handed the property over to us, I think genuinely had no idea what he had because he just wasn't paying attention to the asset at all. And so Jacob, my partner here with Sixth Man Movers here in Nashville, Tennessee, which, by the way, guys, if you are ever going to buy a self-storage facility, I recommend partnering with a moving company, and you're going to hear a little bit why.
Yeah, we know how to fill it.
You have some people that need some storage for a little bit, which is pretty great. It's been a bit of a mess, which is what you would expect whenever you're buying a new property, right? Whenever you're taking something over, even if you have a very organized seller, you're going to have no idea what you're really stepping into until you do it. And it's been interesting. It's been a fun 90 days, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But the good news is,
Hey.
Whoops. I don't know why that is playing.
I like this, though.
Yeah. Sorry for that, guys. Oh, my gosh. Okay.
Hey.
I have no idea how to turn that off, and I have no idea how it started. Okay. Sorry, guys. We had a bit of a technical difficulty there.
All right, we're back.
We are back. Anyway, so when you're 90 days into a project, you've kind of gotten your arms wrapped around it enough to a point to where you understand, all right, we've got the full picture of it. Here's what we've accomplished, and here's what we're going to be doing moving forward. So that's what Jacob and I are going to jump into. Mm-hmm. Game Master is already jumping into the live chat saying, caught the live. Welcome, Game Master. Good to see you, man. Jacob, catch us up, man. I mean, tell us, remind everybody, because we did the first video on this, which was, we bought a failing self-storage facility, which for all intents and purposes was true.
Yeah.
What were our assumptions going into this? What had the seller told us we were going to be getting?
Well, the seller's rent rolls, I think, were like 93% occupant. That was one thing that, we found out to not be true. And we kind of knew, hey, we probably have some attrition or some folks that, will either leave or not be here by the time we take over. So occupancy rate was, misrepresented for sure. I think that a lot of the systems are, literally it's like a time capsule. I think we've been in there and just kind of laughed about how retro everything is.
Yeah, there's like a U-Haul poster from the 90s.
Yeah, and like everything was pen and paper. They definitely had some software that was running a lot of the kind of rent rolls and things like that. So, we're grateful that we had some integrations already in place, so we weren't starting from, all scratch. But, yeah, it's been interesting. I think the biggest thing is what's cool is a lot of the customers have been there for years, and they are wanting to stay and are loving that someone's that's been there and is caring and listening to the little things like needing a light bulb fixed or, the gate has always been a problem, so we updated that. So I think we're already showing the value add. And yeah, as far as like the story, this guy just was absent. That's 100% the underline. Even during the closing, as you remember, he was inaccessible. Why would we think he's going to talk to us after the closing if he wouldn't talk to us before?
Yeah, if you've got an incommunicating or a non-communicating seller while you're trying to give them money, they're definitely not going to talk to you after you have given them the money.
Yes. Yeah, so I think right now, we got our hands around just how vacant it was, which was not a big surprise. I think we probably thought, if you look back in hindsight, Tyler and I kind of worked this out. We're like, all right, if they're saying it's 95%, we'll take it over. It'll be 70. And really, it kind of came down to like 58% at its lowest moment. And then, given my unique position in the market, we're climbing back up, and we're in the high 70s now. And we're 3 months in, so I think there may be a little bit of rework of floor plans to think about, maybe merging some smaller units to make one bigger unit. There's a little bit of micro decisions around how we can best improve the layout, but I mean, we're rock and rolling. I think the cool thing on the horizon is we'll get it filled, and then we get to do the additional units and kind of think through that process.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So if you did not catch the first episode that we did on this self-storage facility, that we bought it back in December at the end of 2024. So we will be able to do a cost segregation study and take the depreciation in 24, which is pretty nice for us and our investors. The systems that they had in place are a bit of a mess. You've got a variety of tenants that are paying, ACH, some that are paying checks, and it's a bit of a mixed-use property, right? We've got 105 self-storage units, but then we also have 2 flex buildings. They also had a handful of vehicles that were parking on site. And so our plan at the moment is to get the vehicles off, because that gives us enough room on the site to add additional storage units. Mm-hmm. And one thing that Jacob and I were talking about earlier this week, because we're trying to figure out how to best go about doing those additional units. Well, the long-term play with this property is for Jacob to refinance it and buy us all out. And so we were having a discussion of, should we go ahead and spend the money on doing nicer self-storage units, that are pretty, that would be market rate? Or since you have a moving company, would it make more sense for us to bring shipping containers in, which are cheaper and a little bit bigger, and use those instead, because Jacob has moving clients that he would be able to put in there, and he and his team would be moving out of those instead. So talk to us a little bit about that conversation.
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes back to like how we want to use our capital expenditure and how quickly we want the solution in place. I mean, shipping containers, 40-foot, 20-foot. I think, give or take, you're looking at $2,500 to $4,500, depending on the size. There's some portable units that are going to be much nicer, and there's probably some financing options that are in there. So it really comes down to like our cash burn and how we want to, navigate that. I mean, I'm a bootstrap, kick it old school, pay cash, don't finance, and get it done kind of guy. And you're let's shine it up, let's add some value, and let's make sure we do it right one time. So I think it's a good mix of our approach, and we'll probably have to do a little bit of both. I do believe, because what we don't want to do is get to a point where we don't have any space when we could have just dropped some containers and maybe leveraged the space to get the rent rolls up.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because when we dip down to 58% occupancy with the amount of debt that we have in the property, which is only about 75%, maybe a little bit less, we're losing money, right? Mm-hmm. Now that we've gotten it filled back up, I think you signed 7 units last week?
This week, yeah,
this week.
7 units, and they were all pretty big units. Like, hence the I would say, like, now we're thinking, okay, well, let's take some smaller units and merge them to where we're ready for the next customer, because a lot of these folks, they all plan to stay for 6 months, and 6 months turns to 9 really quickly, and 9 months turns to a year. So what I see is that a lot of our stickiness of our customers are going to stay longer than maybe your self-storage group that isn't waiting on a builder to finish their home or something like that. So I do think, like, there's 3 metrics that I've been paying attention to. What's our average unit cost? What's our occupancy rate? And then really, like, how long, or, what's the retention of this customer? Is it 30 days? Are we turning this thing over? And the cool thing about this property is it's really sticky. A lot of the customers love working there and kind of doing their thing. I have a catering company that works out of there. We have an electrical company here in Nashville that's worked out of there. And if you look at our reports, I mean, some of these people have been in this space for 4 to 5 years, and it's utilitarian to their operations. And once the nervousness of, like, are we getting kicked out, or is our rent going to triple? I think we're getting through those conversations to know, like, hey, we want you here, and we just got to get you up to fair market rate, and then obviously add some value along the way. And yeah, I do think that this group, for whatever reason, and my customers, they stay longer. They're not turning over in 1 month, 2 months.
Yeah, and the nice thing about being able to sign 7 units in 1 week is that it almost immediately brought us back to break even.
Yes.
Right. So we're no longer losing money on the deal, which is great, right? Because you kind of prep for the first year to lose a little bit of money, right? You bring in some reserves, which we did. We brought in a hefty amount of reserves, just in case, right? You never know what's going to happen, and you also need to be able to carry the debt service, carry the operating expenses as you're going through that, and signing those 7 units brought us right back to that. And again, this is why you want to partner with a moving company if you're going to go and do this stuff. It's at above market rates, right? I mean, we're able to get rates that your typical self-storage facility isn't able to get because Jacob has clients that are in between moves, and it's just a part of their moving package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, a lot of self-storage businesses, and why I've kind of stayed away from them, is it really is a race to the bottom. It's a big price chase of who can get the first month free, the third month free, and then there's a gaming of the system that goes on where it's you may have a client that rents a place, they get a first month free, and they really only need the 2 months, and so you got 1 month for 2 months of occupancy. So with our unique customer base, we really don't have to play that game. And we do look at markets, and that's how we're pricing them. Don't get me wrong. We have a self-storage half a mile one way and half a mile the other way. So we want to price ourselves right there with them. But that doesn't mean you can't get some business partnerships or some unique other types of groups that may use the property and they're willing to pay a little bit higher rate.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's going to be interesting seeing what we're able to accomplish over the next 90 days because now, I mean, it's a learning curve.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. And moving in, I mean, if you guys have never bought a self-storage facility before, which I hadn't, but I had represented a lot of clients that had, we moved in and took over the existing management software.
Yes.
When the previous owner doesn't communicate to the existing management software that they have sold the property and somebody else will be taking that over, you can't take it over.
Yeah.
That's kind of a problem. And so, it's interesting some of the issues that caused. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, the company that the old seller used is called Store Edge, and it's a great suite. They do everything from managing the rent rolls to managing your website and a bunch of different add-ons, your gate access. It's a full suite that luckily someone down the line made a good decision and took a premium software approach, and that's been awesome. That team over there to work with has been great during the transition. But yeah, there's a form that you have to have, and it's a transfer of ownership, and it's only good for 30 days. And if let's say we closed on the 31st, but our rent rolls and things weren't going to become till the 1st, well, our transfer of ownership paperwork is no longer well. So Storage has been good with us to work with. I will say it's very intuitive. Anybody who knows software and any kind of customer relationship manager can get in there, get a login and go, okay, here's where the reporting is. All right, it's not this you need a big tutorial to figure it out. And then I think the best part is the automated communications, the lease or rent agreements, and all of that is uploaded and communicated that way. And then we hired a call center to work in that Storage system, and they're called XPS Solutions. We looked at Brett Copper's group, and our property is just a little too small for their model, and was very transparent about if we add some units, I think we're probably a really good sweetheart account for them. But we ended up going with XPS Solutions, and they've been amazing to work with. But all of that is time-consuming onboarding stuff. It's the things that you just don't think about where, you get a meeting, you think everything's going to be set up, but you learn at the end of the meeting that this meeting was just to have another meeting. Yeah. So you can onboard the service.
Yeah, it's all the non-sexy stuff, right? I mean, everybody thinks we'll buy a self-storage facility, we'll get into the property management system, everybody's paying rent, all we have to do is just market a little bit more, and sign some more, unit leases, and it's really not the case.
No, operations is not sexy.
Yeah.
I think that also when you're doing this, I have an administrative support team for my business, and you do too. But a lot of this is kinetic learning and understanding, like, hey, this can't be delegated because they have to have an owner deal with the onboarding.
Right.
So, usually I'd say, hey, like administrative assistant, take this off my plate. But really, that just hasn't been capable, because just as you go open a bank account, you got to have the owner. Well, same for a storage system, same for a call center support. They have to deal with the person who actually owns the property, and that's time. But I do think that a lot of my approach is throw myself at it at first, and then that way I understand how it works, and it now can be delegated and supported a little more.
Yeah, it's been good. So the first 90 days was Jacob and his admin team kind of taking over, wrapping their arms around how are things actually operating on this site. I've got my maintenance team out there doing some work on there's some like broken doors and
broken doors, a little bit of HVAC, some just neglect,
really
right?
just minor things here and there.
It's just neglect. It's just like, hey, if we would have changed the filter, when it should have been, we probably don't have this issue. Or the doors and things like that. It's wear and tear. It's things that you are probably going to be aware of when you take over something like this. But if you got somebody who doesn't put the capital aside to deal with the wear and tear, it's just going to get worse over time. So, we'll have 4 new doors, and I think our gate broke like month 1, so we got a brand new gate. And even that, though, I will say, is perceived value to our customers. I mean, to see, that they can put in the maintenance call and then it get fixed.
And then somebody actually responds.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's value there, and I think Madison is a cool little area, and just being over there, you kind of get a sense of what's happening in that kind of square, Madison Station Square area, and I do think, like, as far as the more or less the onboarding of all that, I mean, give yourself 60 to 90 days for sure. Because they're going to go at your pace, but there's also like the chicken or the egg, and this has to be set up before that has to be set up, and it just takes time. I think Q1, we had some ambitions to get all of the onboarding done, and here we are, and like sliding in right on the 28th of March, kind of going, hey, we're good to go.
At least it was Q1.
Yeah. And then, I mean, really in Tennessee too, like, it's just really shitty weather in January and February. So it's kind of worked out, because now we get to focus on the outside. Spring is sprung. We get to clean up the property, put a little updates here and there, and had the sign guy out giving some quotes, and just now we get to do the little curb appeal thing, and it definitely coincides with the season, and there'll be a few dumpsters full of things, and then we'll be ready to kind of clean the slate and make it ours.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that you can do as a landlord when you take over any type of property is to just reach out to the tenants, make sure that they know that things are happening, and then show them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So changing the gate, responding to the work orders or the questions, having a presence, all of that makes a big difference, because now all of a sudden those people have confidence in being able to stay there, instead of saying, well, if they're not going to respond to, I can't see in my unit, my light's out, or whatever it is, I need to move somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think, like, another part of that, at least on the communication side, every customer I've talked to, I've had to give them the tone of, hey, we're different, we're new. Any fee you see for right now, we're in transition, like, we're waiving any of that stuff. The $7 additional for them being 6 days late, doesn't matter as much as building the relationship right on the front end. So I think there's been a lot of little conversations here and there.
That's right, because every single unit is worth $17,300 in value.
Yes.
Right, and so it's like, one, of course, you want to make sure that you're signing new units, right, and that's based on the cap rate that we're putting on the property.
Mm-hmm.
So one, you want to make sure you're signing new units, of course, but you want to make sure you're retaining the ones that you've already got.
Yep, and we've got a lot of multi-unit tenants, so they may have a 1 unit in one building, and then for whatever reason their use case got bigger, and now they're a 2-unit or a 3-unit owner. So I think that's also something that was a little surprising, where you go, oh, we have 106 units or whatnot, and we have 44 clients, and we're 78% full. So that's kind of interesting of just knowing that most of these groups are using more than one offering that we have.
Yeah, which is definitely a great thing to see. And Game Master mentioned the long-term value. I mean, absolutely. You've got to think about if you want tenants to stay there and continue to pay you year after year instead of having to find new ones, which, a lot of these self-storage facilities, like, again, if you're not using the hack of partnering with a moving company, we got proposals from management companies that had a lot of money in marketing.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of money. I mean, we're talking like, what was it? I mean, we're talking $8 to $10 grand a year in marketing.
Yeah.
That we get to just cut out of our budget.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about that, I mean, let's talk about not having to spend $10,000 a year on marketing, because $10,000 a year at a 7.5% cap rate is $133,000 in value.
Yeah.
So by not having to spend $8 to $10 grand a year, we're making $130 grand.
Yeah, I mean that's that like my company's basketball, so everything's sports punny, but like that's that defense, right? So we're playing defense by understanding that we don't have to use that capital for that activity, and we still have the outcome that it would have. So yeah, I mean, as far as like, now will we do a little bit here and there? Absolutely. I mean, you never get away from that. But just having a better Google page, we're doing a little bit of SEO, just to kind of get it up to date. It's been quiet on the domain and we also found value in the name. That was a decision that it's, do we leave it? Do we keep it? Do we change it? And there's some value in the name that we have because it's the area we're in, and that one is free. You know?
Yeah, I'm loving the comments from Game Master. He said fixing repairs equals marketing. Who knew? Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's like some of the best marketing you could ever get.
Yeah.
So Jacob, that's the first 90 days. I mean, the next, we've kind of broken some things out into some 2-week sprints depending on what we're looking at. But the next 90 days is what I'm most excited about, because I think we're going to start to see the biggest improvements and the biggest story that we can go back and tell our investors. So what are we looking for in April, May, June?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely get as close to 100% occupant, definitely by the end of the quarter, only because of how it coincides with moving season. Opening weekend for moving and storage is really this weekend, March 31st. It's like a shotgun goes off, and it really is our season until Halloween. And then it kind of settles down a little bit, and then we do it all over again. So we'll fill it up, and then we'll be able to clear the grounds. We're going to move some of those vehicles to another area of the property and start to drag gravel and think about what type of containers we're going to land out there. And yeah, we'll kind of keep you guys informed along the way. I think it will be noticeable from the outside, as far as like what it looks like and how it operates. I think that's for sure in the goal set of like, I want people to drive by there and go, oh, that's that new group,
Yeah, and it's fun to kind of look at it from a math perspective, which I know it probably sounds ridiculous just to hear, but when we're talking about adding new units to the self-storage facility, it costs us $4,000 to $6,000 to maybe $8,000 depending on the type of unit that we decide to add. And that one unit, and we're looking at mobile, right? Because we can move those around or whatever. That will have somewhere between 2 and 4 storage units within it, right? And so when you start running the math, each of those, we're spending $4,000, $6,000, $8,000, but even if it's just one, it's worth about $17,000 leased.
Yes.
If it's 4, it could be worth $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 leased, depending on the type of unit that we go for. So you start looking at those expenses, and you're like, would you spend $6,000 to make 17?
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah.
I would put as much money as I have into that machine.
Well, and the alternative is like leave the boat there and have one paying client.
And get $25 a month for an old boat.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that those are going to be the next steps, is just identifying what type of facility this extra area that we have is going to be, and is it 40 additional units? Is it 52 additional units? I think that all comes into what type of decisions. And I do think it'll probably be a mixed use, where maybe we land some larger containers on there and then have some movable containers as well. So.
Yeah, one of the fun things that I like about a deal this size, 105 units, it's not institutional quality, right? It's not a big enough deal to where private equity is going to get interested. However, you get up to 150 units.
Yeah.
And that totally changes the game, which means that you can get a lower cap rate on the deal, which means that instead of $17,000 a unit, you might be able to get $18,000, $19,000, $20,000 a unit in value. And it's not going to take that much for us to
No,
add
and
to
that's
that if we
that's
wanna
kind
do
of
it.
been the cutoff. I mean, or like that's really that threshold. At least we've kind of learned, but through working with some of the vendors, that you know, we're considered like a small hybrid only model, meaning it makes no sense to have or dollars. It makes no dollars to have somebody on the property all the time to manage it. So we're definitely a hybrid model. But once you get over to the 150 and above, now you kind of start to have the capital to, you know, have somebody man the ship, if you will. And yeah, obviously just have different resources available to you. And look, like our goal is to maximize our footprint. And, you know, we have really two areas, one on the right side that's of the property and one on the left. And I think if we focus on everything inside the fence line for the next quarter, then we'll really have an opportunity to get our containers or our unit rate up to, like, let's call it 130, 140 units, and then we're, you know, it's not a break even, it's a cash flow positive, you know, pretty. It's why we signed up for this. It's the success story we're trying to write right now. But yeah, next 90 days inside the fence is really going to be the focus, and then once we kind of maximize that footprint, I do think that we'll lean to the other side, and it's got all kinds of unique potential as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. Game Master is asking, he's saying, interesting, why Halloween? Why is Halloween the cutoff for moving season? Is it holidays?
Yeah, for Nashville, it's really just like all in line with the weather.
Starts getting cold.
Yeah. I always think about Halloween as like the first cold day, because you look at the lady who's got the Wonder Woman outfit on, you're going, that's a little too cold for that thing, you know. But it is really where it's all in line with weather. Some years it goes a little further, right, because it's nice, and you know, we've all had Tennessee Christmases at 70 degrees.
Shorts,
Yeah. But mainly it's kind of like if you zoomed back and looked at the last 10 years, it's the last weekend in March to the last weekend in October, and then at least how we operate our businesses, November and December can be surprisingly good, but January and February will always be kind of the slowest time of year in this business.
Yeah, nobody really wants to deal with that.
It's the people that have to move, they're not like thrilled to list the house.
Right.
You know.
What have been your biggest takeaways this quarter for this being your first self-storage takeover?
I mean, I think, like, for sure, I'm so grateful that I already had my foot in the Tennessee Self-Storage Association, because there are resources there that, quite frankly, you know, we've had to lean on. So just already having a foothold before you're a storage unit owner, joining an association, it can save you so much, because you're not having to chase all the resources and the vendors. They're actually coming to you. So I would say that's a big deal. I mean, same for, like, don't underestimate what the rent roll difference can be.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we knew that would kind of be the case, but I mean, there's a lot of things that are just kind of comical, and you know, oh, that's rented out to yourself, you know, and they're not paying anything market rate. So I think there's just, like, don't underestimate the information. I look at hindsight too, of like, okay, you know, in a perfect world, if we could zoom back during our diligence period, what could we have done different? It's like you get that seller, you walk that property, you open every unit, because I mean, you're entitled to do that.
Right.
That's your property. And I think for us, we took them at their word, and their word's not been great. So yeah, looking back, if we could have
And
walked,
sometimes you just don't have a seller that's willing to do that.
he wasn't.
And we were willing to put up with that because we knew, well, even if we get into the mess that we did, it's going to be worth it in the long run.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not even kidding. Jacob had to get the seller's real estate broker
Yeah, God bless
to
her.
get like
She's been awesome.
yeah, she had to get like what, a power of attorney to be able to sign off on some stuff for him because he just wouldn't deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that like and that was a creative solution too, because
Yeah.
you're going, I got to have this paper signed, and this guy's not going to sign anything. So how can we get this done?
I mean, that's the power of getting creative on deals, and whenever there's hair on a deal like that, probably a good opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just persevere through the little nuances. I think that's like been there's like little wins that are thankless. I mean, just by getting your call center onboarded or getting your gate, API connected to the storage software. Like all of those are just little wins that, quite frankly, no one's going to go, hey, great job. It's just you put in the work and you got the outcomes that you have to run the business seamlessly. I think, this is a misconception of quote unquote passive income. It's not passive at first, and you got to know that. I think it eventually could become passive, but in the first year, I definitely wouldn't think too much about that word.
Yeah, you've got to put the work into it to set it up the right way to make sure that you're getting the income that you deserve if you want it to actually be passive.
True.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. We will be back. We'll continue to update you all on this self-storage facility that we acquired as we have updates. So stay tuned. Another 60 to 90 days, maybe at the end of Q2.
Yeah.
We'll do another update, kind of catch you guys up on how many units we've leased and what the long-term plans are. So appreciate you guys joining us. If you were listening on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review. And if you're joining us here live on YouTube, leave me some comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on the self-storage world. We'll see you guys in the next one. This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by my CRE Accelerator Mastermind, where you'll get access to my step-by-step investment blueprint, essentially a library of resources on how to invest in commercial real estate. You'll get connected to a supportive community of other commercial real estate investors that are doing projects just like you. You'll get personalized coaching and feedback from me every step of the way. Go to www.crecentral.com to learn more.